Welcome to Rooted in Our Ancestors' Dreams. We create spaces where stories are not extracted but honored, where memory becomes medicine, and where identity is affirmed rather than explained. Through intentional storytelling, intergenerational dialogue, and community centered action, we help people reconnect to what has always been theirs: wisdom, dignity, and the right to dream forward. Our work invites reflection, restoration, and responsibility, transforming inherited resilience into conscious vision and collective care. Before us were dreams whispered in the dark, hands that built without recognition, voices that carried hope when silence was safer. This space is for them, and it's for us, the ones still becoming, still remembering, still choosing to dream forward. Here, we honor where we come from so we can be clear about where we're going. This is Rooted in Our Ancestors' Dreams, where legacy is bound by vision and rooted in purpose. Today, we are joined by Bishop Mayceo Smith II from City of Joy Church in Akron, Ohio. And our topic today is family, faith, and the legacy of the Black church. Welcome, Mayceo.
Hello, how are you? And glad to be here with you. Excited to have this wonderful conversation.
Thank you. When you hear Rooted in Our Ancestors' Dreams, what comes to mind?
Well, the first thing I think of rooted is something that's been established, and it speaks to the idea that our freedom and education and faith may have been something that wasn't always there, but now we fought so hard to get here. To have something rooted means we need to continue in that legacy. We don't take progress lightly, and we definitely don't take freedom lightly. So that's the first thing I think of when I hear rooted in our ancestors' dreams, because there was dreams they had that we're walking in every day, and that makes everything worth what they did for us.
Thank you so much for sharing that with us. You grew up in a household that was filled with the faith and the spirit. And how did that shape your early views of faith, responsibility, and community?
Well, like you did mention, I did grow up in a church home. My uncle was my pastor, and it was a church in Twinsboro, Ohio, a small church. And from about 7 years old, we were going to his church that he took over. And I learned responsibility clearly from being in a smaller church, because in that church, everybody was the cleaner, everybody was an usher, everybody was the van driver. It basically shows you whatever's needed, you're willing to put your hands to. And it taught me, and it gave me an opportunity to learn. Because I remember I was the ones that helped paint the sanctuary walls. So every time I walked in that sanctuary that we built, I believe it was 94. Every time I walked in there, I had a sense of pride, because it made you feel like, hey, this isn't just a church, but this is my church. And it gave me a sense of community and responsibility. And I understood faith because I saw my uncle trust God for so many different things. So it truly blessed my life.
It sounds like it. And can you share a defining moment from your childhood or adolescence that influenced your decision to become a pastor yourself? Because I know for a lot of youth, especially, that is not an easy step to take. It's filled with
Yeah.
a lot of doubt and a lot of, insight and introspection. How did that go for you?
Yeah, and you kind of even answered that, because I honestly, for people that don't know, me and you went to high school together, and I know, and I know, I was not thinking about being a pastor at Central High School. But one thing that was interesting to me is I can't say the exact date or time that I knew, but I do know that everybody always treated me as a leader. A lot of people would share with me. So my whole life, even as a youngster, a lot of people were comfortable talking to me. And I never had a mentality of being better than anybody else. I always wanted to help. And as that formed throughout my years, I remember in college, they called me the moral guy. Everybody would come to me with that. And I just wanted to help people. So I would say it probably was in college that I kind of felt I needed to do something community wise, but I didn't necessarily think it was going to be church. I actually considered politics. And I also thought about being a teacher, but all of those were to help lead people into positive direction. So I don't have a defining moment, but I do know I was shaped in some type of leadership way to help people.
And watching you on that path has been such a blessing, because it's shown how you can draw people to you and how you can instill that kind of faith and hope in them.
Amen.
So you kind of did, go that route of being a teacher because that is what someone in the church does is guide and
Yeah.
lead and teach others
Yes.
about the spirit and, their path. So
Absolutely.
how did expectations placed on you, if you had any, impact your personal identity, your sense of freedom, or your relationship with the church?
Yeah, see, that was the struggle for me, because honestly, expectations are a blessing and a burden. They're a blessing because at least you know what's expected of you, but then they're a burden because when you fall short, it causes you to feel less than. And I had to deal with that really a long time, especially being a pastor, almost 17 years now. When I first started, I thought the expectation was just for perfection, and I had to admit, as I got older, I read a book by a guy named Perry Noble, and he said a line in the book that I stayed with me for years. He says, "It's okay not to be okay, but it's not okay to stay that way." And I think once I got that in my spirit and in my heart, I understood that perfection is not necessarily what I have to be. I just have to be continue to being better as myself. So those expectations of being a pastor, and the pastor is supposed to be holy and supposed to be righteous and all that. Yeah, that can be very that can mess with your mental health as well. So I had to learn how to be okay being me and at the same time striving just to be a better me at the same time. So again, those expectations can be very difficult. And that's why a lot of spiritual leaders quit. They say pastors quit every day because it can become overwhelming. But I want to keep that sense of reality and just do the best I can and admit that I'm not perfect.
I think that's reassuring for a lot of listeners to hear because I think, even from, your constituents or your, what would you call it, churchgoers,
Members, yeah.
they expect perfection or they see you as someone to look up to. So sometimes they place that burden on you and it is heavy to carry. And I speak from the point of someone who's a social worker and feeling that need to solve problems and fix things and make people perfect. It's not always easy to have that on your shoulders while
No,
trying
it
to
ain't.
grow yourself.
Right. And I've even experienced people will have higher expectations of you than they do of their own selves. And once you understand that, it gives you peace in the fact saying, hey, you know what? I'm just going to be the best I can be for me. And hopefully that helps other people along the way.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So you are now a bishop, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So as a bishop, how do you navigate raising your own children in the faith while allowing them space to form their own beliefs?
Yeah. And this was a very big topic for me and my wife as we were raising our children. First of all, let me say that is my greatest blessing by far. My son is Mayceo III. He is a senior at the University of Akron. And not only is he a senior, he's graduating and he has made $10,000 to go to school. So I haven't paid a dime. I haven't had to give him any money. So that's my dude. Thank you, Mace. My daughter is a sophomore at the number one HBCU in the world, Spelman College, and we are so proud of her. She's going into medicine. She's already had a time to spend in Italy. She's looking at an internship at a hospital. So we're just so elated. So what we did, we didn't want that typical PK, the preacher's kid. We didn't pressure our children at all. We just set an example for them. I never forced them because you can't force faith. A lot of times I've seen pastors' kids feel that pressure as well. And then as soon as they become 18, they run away as far as they can from the church. Both of my kids are adults and they both enjoy church still. My son works in my media team. My daughter enjoys church. While she's a filmer, she's continuing in church. She just ordered a Bible off of Amazon, a real paper Bible last week. So I just said, hey, amen. But I allow them to form their own opinion and they both trust the Lord. They both pray. They're neither one of them are perfect, but we did not force it down their throat. We kind of just let them do their own thing so they can find God in their own way.
Congratulations to both of them and to you and your wife for raising such admirable children. And I'm glad that they opted to, continue with their faith, but also within the church and the community and contributing to society.
Yes. Yeah.
What elements of Christianity felt grounding and empowering for you? And what aspects did you have to unlearn or reinterpret as an adult?
That's a really great question because what I really found to be grounding for me is just simple grace and mercy. Grace is God giving us blessings we do not deserve, and I have a bunch of those. And mercy is God not making us pay the punishment for things that we do deserve to pay punishment for, and I got a lot of those. And these two things help me reinterpret how I see life, because I definitely understand the power that we all need forgiveness. And not only do we need forgiveness, what made me focus more on now as I get older is the ability to forgive others, because everybody want to be forgiven. But when it comes to forgiving others, it's a process sometimes, and sometimes we feel they don't deserve our forgiveness. But we all know the Lord's Prayer. It says, "Forgive us of our trespasses," but we forget that part where it says, "As we forgive those who trespass against us." So, in my life now, I'm about to be 47 years old. My main focus is making sure that I'm forgiving of those who have trespassed against me, because you don't get forgiveness if you don't give it. So that's some things that I kind of had to reinterpret, because a lot of people only want to focus on God forgiving them. But we have to focus is just as much as on forgiving others. And it's tough. It's tough. I remember I did a forgiveness series, and I didn't get a whole lot of amens going through that thing. But it's something that I think it'll heal the heart. It's something I believe that allows us to be whole again, because holding on to hurt and pain of someone's past just it slows us down. So forgiving people is tough, and it does take a process. That may not happen overnight. Forgiving a parent, forgiving a spouse, forgiving someone who harmed you. But I just believe that's what we have to do as Christians, and that's the faith we have. So
It is a very difficult thing to teach and to learn, because I find as someone who provides therapy, trying to help individuals who are broken or lost
mm,
through that process, it looks like telling them that, hey, forgiveness is not for the other person, it's for you to have peace.
very good. Yeah. Yeah.
And sometimes you have to forgive yourself as well and learn to love yourself to get through that process. It may not come immediately, it may not come at all, but it's your decision at the end of the day. And it could harm you, or it could show growth within you.
Absolutely. And what I've learned is that sometimes people feel if they forgive, they're letting the offender off the hook. When in reality, when you forgive, you're letting yourself off the hook. And it takes time. I mean, people have really been harmed by someone, but we have to find a way to forgive so that we can be forgiven. Because I know we've harmed people too. We've done things wrong too. And when we look at it from that perspective, I think it's easier to at least start the process of trying to forgive.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So in the past, the Black church, and maybe even currently, although we don't see it, I guess, in action so much, but in the past, the Black church has been very vital in the civil rights movement and in the community. How does the Black church, particularly yours, continue to serve as a cultural, spiritual, and political anchor in your community?
Yeah, and that is very important to me. When we started, the name of our church is City of Joy Life Enrichment Center, and I agree with you. Back in the day, the church was the central hub of hope in every community. The church was the most powerful place in the community to go. And nowadays, many churches, not all, but many churches are just open on Sunday. So here at our church, we wanted to do different. We wanted to make sure that we go back to that place where the church should be somewhat a community center at the same time. So for us, example, we have church on Sunday, of course. Then we have a Spanish speaking church in my other building on my campus. We have a Monday through Friday daycare in our building. We are a polling location because I believe the church should allow for politics. And you want people that have faith to be able to vote. We push the voting process. We also have a community room where we rent out and space. We rent it out to companies. A company called Everwell has their company meeting here. We have Dreams Academy and Queens Academy, a young men and women's group that comes here. We have, of course, weddings, parties, funerals, but in our community, in our neighborhood, City of Joy is well known because somebody's doing something here 7 days a week. And I think that helps because if the community is coming through the doors for anything, we had a child support summit here where men were getting their child support back on track. We've had nonviolent meetings here where they come in, Freedom Block comes in and teaches how to deal with the police, whatever it is. I want City of Joy to be the main focal point of hope. When you drive by this building, you can say, I've been there for a lot of different reasons, and it may not even have been for church. And that's the pride that we take. And I think it helps the community understand that we love them. And it's not about just coming to my service on Sunday.
I love that. I love that involvement in all aspects of life, that people feel they can remain connected and also receive that support from you.
Yes, yes. And it's working well. And a lot of people say, hey, one day they will wake up one morning and say, hey, I want to go to church. They say, well, let me go where I vote at. It still helps them to feel comfortable walking through our doors and experiencing Christ. That is the end goal for us. But we want to open it up for every aspect of their life, even if it's not for that. They can feel love and support from us.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. In your experience, how has the role of bishop, pastor evolved, especially in a generation that values transparency, mental health, and authenticity?
Yeah, and this was a big one as well because, a lot of times pastors are viewed as this figure that's different than everyone else. But today's pastor, to be successful, you have to be more human than a hero. Because we got so much social media going on. One thing happened wrong, the pastor's, his business is shared all over the place. But people want to know that you understand that you're a real person. They want to know that. And it also can deal with your mental health because pastors have mental health issues too. And back in the day, they were ignorant about the things that we know now. They would say, hey, you got a problem, just go pray about it. Well, nowadays, people want to know that the pastor says, hey, pray about it, but also get a therapist. It's important to deal with your spiritual health, but you must have your mental health in check as well. You might need to pray at the altar, but you might need to sit on somebody's couch. It's both and now. And I think the only way to truly be healed is to be healed in your mind, body, and soul. So yes, you can know the book of Psalms, but do you know how to handle yourself when your anger takes over? You definitely know how to sing a worship song, but do you know how to manage yourself when you feel like you're about to lose it? Do you know those techniques to get your mind back on track? And the stuff you're dealing with in your past, who's helping you walk through that? So we push here. We actually have a mental health month in May, and we do a mental health summit. We do a mental health awareness day. We do a mental health workshop. And a fair to where therapists come after service. You can walk around, talk to them. You can get connected to them because I definitely in a Black church, we need more than just prayer. We need therapy, and I'm in therapy, and I have no problem with that. I think pastors definitely need therapy, especially with all the things that we're dealing with, because I deal with 90% of the struggle I'm dealing with mentally isn't even my problem. I'm worried about somebody else. I'm at a hospital like for example, one day, and I don't want to take too long on this topic, but this is my heart here. So one day in my career, I remember going to the hospital because a young man, a mother, her son got murdered. I went to pray for her. And then in the same building, I had to walk across a couple ways. A young lady had a baby, and I had to celebrate with her. So imagine the mindset that you're walking in. You have to be sad enough and to show your condolences here. 10 minutes later, I have to be happy enough to make sure they know I'm excited about this new life. That is not normal. And that can mess with your mind when those two things go from left to right like that. So those are the type of things that pastors deal with that we need to make sure that we're mentally strong.
That's very heavy. That is, that's a lot of weight to be carrying. To learn how to care for yourself is the only way you can really give of yourself to others.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So here's another question that I think the younger pastors are able to navigate better than maybe some of the older generations. But how can you better support youth who may be questioning, struggling with identity, or feeling disconnected from traditional structures of faith?
Yeah, these are very, very important issues that we're dealing with now, especially with people and identity. And I think the number one thing that we have to do as a church is we have to listen. As what the young people say now, you got to listen and don't judge. We have to listen because a lot of these people don't get a listening ear anywhere else. Why wouldn't it be the church to be able to at least be able to sit down and listen to them? Even if you disagree with their lifestyle or you feel that they could be doing some different things, we as the church have to create safe spaces. That's the only way that young people can feel safe enough to share what they're actually going through. And I'm trying to do a good job of having a multi-generational church. We're starting a discipleship in a class here where the older generation can be on purpose, purposely connected to a younger person. So you might have a 60-year-old connected to a 25-year-old, and they have to walk together for 3 to 6 months, meet on their own, be connected. There's a movie out there called The Forge that showed that example of how that works. And in order to allow them to feel safe, we got to make it safe for them, because God doesn't reject them. Religion does. You know what I mean? I went to a church back in the day where they would say women wearing pants was a sin. That's ridiculous. That's not a sin. So that shuns people away. But when we say come as you are, we literally mean come as you are. And an old man told me, you got to catch a fish before you clean it. So in order for us to even help you, we got to at least make it safe for you to come. And then we'll let God do his job. And that's important too. It's not my job to change their life. It's just my job to tell them how their life can be changed. And then God will do the rest. So we have a good group of young people here, and I allow them to be them. There are some things that I'd be like, oh my God, but they're excited about the Lord. I laugh at my young guys here. I'll be like, hey man, I don't know how y'all wear pants with your ankles showing. My pants gonna be a little bigger. I ain't into the skinny jeans. I'm too old and big for that. But you let them express themselves, because back when we was coming up, they said the MC Hammer was gonna send us to hell. You know what I mean? So we have to accept that times change, but the Bible doesn't. And our job is just to share the word of the Lord and do it in love. And it's easier to receive love than it is to receive rejection. So
thank you. What challenges and blessings come with being both a parent and a pastor, especially when your family is also part of your congregation?
Yeah, that is important too, because my issue with that is I have to make sure I keep a balance, make sure there's a balance, because with a decent amount of members, even my daughter, we were at the grocery store one day, and like 5 people stopped me. Like 3 of them wanted prayer, and 2 of them just wanted to say hi. And she was getting irritated, like, "Jeezy Pete, leave the man alone." But I wanted her to understand, yes, the church is always going to view me like that, but I'm always going to be your father. And family comes before church. And I'm not a successful pastor if I'm not successful at home. And I wanted to make sure that when I first started City of Joy and I was building it, I was a founder, I was gone a lot. And my wife mentioned something to me about being gone so much. So I made sure that I sacrificed the time from the church to make sure I can keep my family. Because a lot of pastors do struggle with family issues and personal relationships because we're so busy trying to serve and do others. But for me, I would rather my church say I'm not here enough, but my family say I'm there for them, than my church to say I'm there enough and my family say I'm not there for them. So the balance is a challenge because we do have to be here and do things. But I want to make sure that my family knows, hey, he can be anything he want over there. But right now, he's just my dad. He's just my husband. He's just mine. He's here for us. And that's important. And the ministry flow is better because they see me at my worst at home and in church. They hear people talking about me at church. They see when I'm my best at home, but I just want them to know more than anything else that man loved us. And we were number one. So that's the challenge the pastors must walk with, but we must win at home first.
Thank you. So if there was one message you could share about the enduring importance of the church in the Black community, past, present, and future, what would it be?
I would say, especially now with the church, so many people having a negative feeling with the church, and the people always, when one thing happened, and everybody say, that's why I don't go to church. And I'm like, well, listen, no matter what anybody says, the church has power, and it must stay a safe place. It must be a place of love, of health and support. No matter what or who you are, you still are welcome to the Church of Jesus Christ. And that is what we must continue to share, regardless of what anybody else says. The way God wanted the church to go, it was for everybody. And that literally means everybody. We can't pick and choose. The Bible even talked about how they were fishing with nets. When you fish with nets, you don't know what you're going to pull up, but you want to catch anything in there. And that's how the church must be. So for the church to survive and for the church to continue to be as powerful as it's been, we have to be able to love literally everybody and allow everybody space to be who they are while still giving them the gospel of Jesus Christ.
Well, this has been very informative, and I have loved the way that you have framed not only spirituality and faith, but also the involvement of the church in the community. How can our listeners contact you or receive your services? If you could give us that information, we'll also include it on the website so that they can also reach out to you.
Yes, we have a very large online viewing platform. They can go to Facebook or Instagram or YouTube, and it's at City of Joy Akron. That'll get you everything you need to know about our church and what we're trying to do. And you'll be able to see services and see our worship experience and be a part of our online community. So definitely at City of Joy Akron, they'll be able to do that. And if they wanted to follow me on my social platforms, it's at Mayceo Smith, Mayceo. And we would enjoy them to be a part of our online community.
Thank you for being our guest and for sharing your journey with us and for allowing us to get a little insight into what being a bishop or a pastor in a leadership role involves. And I really enjoyed it.
I did as well.
Thank you. And listeners, as we close, we invite you to notice what stayed with you, the memories, the questions, the truths that surface. Our ancestors lived on in how we listen, how we care for one another, and how we choose to move forward. If this interview resonated, share with someone who holds your history. Please visit Bishop Smith's websites and his social media. Get involved with the church and with the community. Until next time, stay rooted, stay connected, and keep dreaming forward. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify Podcasts, and our YouTube channel where you can learn more about our guests and how to get in touch with them and how to get involved. Thank you so much. And until next time, this has been Rooted in Our Ancestors' Dreams. Thank you.